So I told everybody I've been looking for some deals lately. I'm actually going through some stuff now, and I'll keep everybody informed as stuff comes up. And you guys are keeping an eye out. So if you see anything you want to review, let me know. A big part of what I'm also doing is just getting a good feel for what's out there right now, and some of the opportunities that are coming up, so we can see them. Sometimes I might have already seen them, might not have, and so mostly for me, when I get busy, what I'm trying to do is look for the low hanging fruit, the stuff that's there's a big difference in. Say I could either offer like list or over list based on my first quick assessment of it. When I see that, then I put a lot of my attention to it. When I'm really busy, I want to make sure I at least look for those. When I'm a little less busy, then I want to get into the stuff that maybe I could, it's 10K or 15K more, maybe even 20K more than what I would offer, knowing that I might be able to negotiate it down some potentially. So that's always worth checking into. I will tell you this, that if I have to offer about, say, 15 to 20K less on MLS stuff and it's bank owned, then I know there's less of a chance of that happening versus if it's private owned. Like Nikki getting a deal right now where it was for 100 and she's picking it up for 170, not very many days on the market, but it was private owned, so that was possible. Like if it was bank owned, right, they just don't take big discounts until they have days on market. So they won't really reduce until 30 days on the market in general. So that's the way they work. They just have like a system they follow. So it's kind of tough to get on there and, say or do anything that might cause them to, take 170 when they're listed at 200. My experience is they probably would wait 30 days before they would consider that. With private owner, I've seen people list for 140 and one day on the market, I've gotten them take 100. It's not always perfect, but no one was coming in at 140. So the good news, 140 was kind of high and the house was in really awful shape. And the agent had already told them they thought they would only get 100, but they listed it for 140 anyhow. So they ended up coming back and asked me if I'd pay 105, and I did. And, and I got the deal. So that's possible with a private deal. So when you're looking, know if you're considerably lower on an MLS deal, then you're completely wasting your time, in my opinion. Well, let's not say you're wasting your time. Like it's never going to happen, but like anything can happen if you work hard enough and try hard enough. But we're really looking for the stuff that we don't have to work that hard for. We're looking for the stuff that's going to be the best use of our time. So we always look at like we look for the scenarios that are most profitable, essentially, right? We're always thinking like, where would I use the least amount of my time and get the most deals? And my opinion would be just, the scenarios I just laid out to you. Focus on the better ones and then go from there as necessary.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, so on that note, with that HUD property that you and I looked at, they were asking 138,000, and we offered 105, and they said that our offer was too low for them to even counter. So I just told her, we would wait, but then she did come back and say, well, they said they countered at 132.3. That would be the lowest they would take now. And so just like what you were saying, until there's more on the market, they're not going to come down past that 132.3. And we're so far off, and I am not going higher than, that's my highest and best because I've done the numbers and I don't want to go any higher than the 100. So yeah, it's a pretty big gap.
And then with it, well, the main thing with HUD that we love is we usually can generate a counter so we know where they sit. And as we watch them, so your job now is to pay attention to it and see if it goes down, because I promise you if no one buys it for 132, it will go down in 30 days. And just keep an eye on it. And every time they make a reduction, it gets closer and closer to your number, you should put the offer in again. I've put in HUD offers up to 5 or 6 times before I've gotten them. Okay. It's the way it goes sometimes, because eventually the more time they get on the market, the more, my opinion is once they get more than a few months in on a listing, they are more open to a discount. Just because they're, the market's kind of, for them, they have to be pretty convinced there's no one out there willing to overpay for the house. So the best houses are the ones that come out. Like my favorite HUD properties is when it lists for say 100 and I'm like, oh, I could pay 100. Well, that's the house I want to get an offer in like that minute or, that day as soon as possible. Because I've seen those, like I've actually had a few scenarios where I've taken and paid, say, full price for a house, exactly what they would count. They countered me, like I paid a little under what they wanted, and they countered me with a number, say, well, Nick's deal I just did recently is a great example. So I made an offer at 91. They countered me at net of 98. And I hadn't seen the house yet when I made the offer. So I got my car and went out and seen it. And, you know, what happened is I went out and seen it like 3 days later and, you know, waited a really long time. And when I got out and seen it, I was like, oh, it's nicer than I thought. It wasn't as bad as the picture looked, and I could actually pay 98. So I went back to accept the counter, and they'd already given it to someone else, which is not uncommon. And then Nick actually paid attention and realized it came back, that person didn't perform, and it came back on the market. But now, because I got the counter and I knew they wanted to be at a 98 offer, I just went in and put a new offer in at 98, and we got it accepted, and like literally the next day. So it's just about getting an understanding of what we are, you know, like, because with the counter, they're actually telling you what their position is. And it sounds like their position is considerably higher than where you want to be. Time is going to be your friend, you know, and just pay attention, keep an eye on it. If there's any way in your MLS, you can put maybe like, if there's ever any kind of, you know, you can go in your MLS and just changes this email. I think it is your MLS, right, Kim?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So if it is, then go ahead and just put in, you can add a property and say like any kind of price change or status change, you know, send me an email, and that way you'll get an email. We tend to do that on all properties that we want to keep an eye on. That's the easy way of following up for us, is that as soon as there's a change, so I can take another look at it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't know how to set it up, though. I wish I did, but it's not too hard. If you go into the education piece, you can figure that out, I'm sure. So, Gloria, I'm going to put you up if that's okay. I got a couple questions for you. I know you had a few questions. Let's see. Oh, you're over here. Oh. Hold on somewhere. Gloria, can you hear me? Oh, we're
Yes,
back
I
to
can
that.
hear you.
I can't hear you. Oh, I can hear you over here. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, you
good.
hear me now?
So your insurance, yes, I can. Your insurance, Gloria, question insurance, like what insurance we get on this builder's risk. You know, it can run anywhere from like $600 to like $1,500. It's usually determining the house for and how much money you're putting into it, because basically how much they're covering essentially like what you're buying it for and what it's gonna, you know, what replacement value is. We only want to insure for, you know, the builder's risk that the lender makes us get. They also have a rider policy of like a normal policy that you can add on, which is a couple $100 on the policy, that it basically covers if somebody falls in your property, like when you're showing the property. It doesn't cover like if someone falls when they're doing work, but it would cover like, say, you know, an agent's bringing a buyer through and they slip and fall on your steps when there's snow or something. You know, that would cover that, which is like accidents or stuff like that. But just for when you're on the market, not for the workers, it wouldn't cover them. So I get that. Some people don't get that. Totally up to you. It costs an extra couple $100. I seen that you had like a acts of terrorism for $140 some. I probably would pass on that because I don't really, well, I don't know. I'm not too worried about terrorism. You know, for $140, I'd probably just go ahead and, yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I don't really love the insurance anyhow in general. I mean, I've only used insurance like 2 or 3 times in my life on over 800 some properties that I've rehabbed. So I don't, you know, I buy it because the people make me buy it. Does that make sense? They make me buy it. So that's why I buy it. And, you know, over the years, I actually ran the numbers. I was talking to someone about this. It's just crazy thought, but you know, if you take 850 plus properties that I flipped, and let's just call it like an average of $1,000 a policy, which might even be higher than that, it's $850,000 that I've paid in insurance, and $850 in insurance, and I've collected 108 recently, and I collected one time 36,000. I collected, I think it was like 16,000 once. That's it. So about $150,000. Now, if it wasn't for that house that burnt up recently, I'd really be fine. But they're still roughly $700,000 up on me. So I've thought about it. You get that out. I don't think insurance. I'm not telling you not to get insurance, but you guys get it. Don't overdo it, right? Don't overinsure. It's already bad enough that we're in a situation where we're paying $850 and getting, at best, if you're lucky, you're getting $150 back. Most of the time, you don't even run into anything, and it's a little bit of a scam. I wish I had the cojones to just say I'm not buying insurance and I'm just going to start my own insurance fund for my own houses. But the scary part of that is if something happens in between you and and then the lender is approving that. But I think one day I might be able to. I've been thinking through, like, if I had $100,000 in an account, I convinced my lenders to be like, hey, you're not doing insurance, and then just like take every dollar I would have put towards insurance and start building my own insurance fund. So I don't know. It's something to think about. It's a long-term goal. But so I don't overdo it. And I shop it around. There's a second piece of this insurance. It's pretty important. I think yours said $1,000. It was like $1,000 and some dollars. And it also like 1,086 or something, but it said earned minimum. And that's earned minimum means that, like, if you had the insurance and you canceled it 30 days later, they're going to want 50% earned minimum. It looked like roughly, it was like 50. Yeah. It looked like maybe 45% or something like that. It was 450. That's what the earned minimum means, is that they basically are saying that you got some have like a 6-month earned minimum. Some have a 3-month earned minimum, meaning that they, if you canceled it in a month and you got in and out that house in 2 months, they're going to charge you for 3 months and they'll refund you the rest. Obviously I would never do anything worse than a 6-month, but 3 is what I prefer and what I work with, because if I get in and out of the house in, say, 2.5 months, I don't want to pay for another 3 to 4 months of insurance. So that's my opinion. I kind of like doing it that way. So make sure your earned minimum and your ability to get like a refund for the rest of the year, if you, because that is a lot of money. Like, most of us should be getting out, in and out of these houses in 4 to 6 months. So if the thing is, the insurance companies make us pay for a year because they want to make sure you're insured for the whole life of the loan, because they usually are 1-year loan. So they make you pay for a year, but it's important that you can get your 6 months back if you have 6 months. It's $500. It's not like, it's pretty substantial. With that being said, that's just something to consider, right? I mean, make sure you got an earned minimum. So those are the questions you would want to ask. Is first of all, ask your insurance, your hard money, like what is the minimum they're looking for, and so and then talk with them. Try to get the minimum. Make sure that if what is the earliest that you can cancel it and get your money back. I would make sure that's at least 3 to 6 months. Meaning, I prefer 3, because if you got it done in 4 or 5 months, I still want to get a refund. I don't want to pay for a bunch of months I don't need. And then they make you pay that as part of your settlement, by the way. So there is a company out there, and I don't know the name because I haven't used them a lot, but if you look them up, I'm sure you can find them. There is a company that only charges you a monthly insurance rate. So meaning, like, you just pay for the months you need it, and every month you just $200 a month. They tend to be a little more expensive. So like, if you're paying 1,000, you might end up paying like 1,500. Not 15. You probably pay like 1,150 or something. They're pretty close to the cheap price I'm paying, but you only have to pay them monthly. So if you're paying an extra $15 a month, but instead of putting out $1,000 out of pocket, you $150 a month out of pocket. That's something to think about, right? Maybe you don't want to put a bunch of money out of pocket. My big thing with my insurance company is that my mom has a full-time job chasing down. She has to keep chasing them down. They take forever to come back. So I do like the idea of paying the monthly one. It's something to consider and think about, because at the end of the day, ultimately, if you're not paying for the whole year, it just helps you have too much cash flow out. So some stuff to think about. I mean, I don't know a lot about insurance because I just get the minimum. I know I hate it. It's like one of those necessary evils. I hate it, except for when my house caught on fire and they gave me $108K. Then I like it more. But other than that, even then, I end up fixing that for I collected. Here's the part that I didn't really share is that, okay, and this is funny. I had $150,000 in money paid to me out of this $850 that they collected. However, the actual repairs, say if I would have had my own insurance money and say I didn't get anything and I had to pay for it myself, the actual repairs were only about $40,000 total out of the $850 I paid. So, I mean, what it would have cost me to do that. Now, the insurance company overpaid me on a bunch of the repairs. It gave me like $32,000 one time and I only needed like $7K in repairs. It gave me $108 recently when it was only like $15K in repairs. So they. But anyhow, so I mean, again, I'm not telling anyone not to insure, but one day when you guys are doing a lot of flips, you're making some money, it might be something to consider. Right now, I would just suggest keep your insurance costs as low as possible. Figure out what the minimum is you need, and because it's only going to cover certain stuff anyhow. And, you know, that builder's risk covers some things, but it always has minimums. It always has deductibles. So a lot of times when people break in and they do like $2,000 in damage, I end up paying for it. You know, I don't usually even call the insurance that often, but for God's sake, I should be calling them more often, you know, since I pay so much of it. And then if you go to them too much, then they'll cancel you. Believe me, you're never going to win the insurance game. It's a rigged game. Just don't give them any more money than you need to, would be my advice. Make your, yeah, that's the main reason I get it, is because my lender make me get it. You also Lori had some questions about like doing draws and budgets and all that. There's a line item budget. There's also, with that line item budget, there is a timeline behind it, and you can take that line, or you can just go line item budget and just start putting some pricing in based on what you think should cost, and get it to add up to your number. And I'll look at it and I'll see what you've done right and what, need some help on. Over it with you and just tell you like what's what and what's making sense. But it's going to take some time. If it takes you 3 hours to do it, that's fine, because it's a learning experience. You have to learn to do the numbers yourself, and part of it is you might get a lot of it right, and when you get it right, I want to be able to tell you like, okay, you did this really well and that worked, and the things, and we can put all of our energy into the things that need a little bit of adjustment, and that way you can get your budget together. Okay, so do all that yourself, and I'll help you revise. It's always kind of the best to do. Okay.
Yeah, I have done that. Come up with the budget, but I I don't know how to put it in the draw schedule, which one I need in draw 1, draw 2, draw 3. That's where I'm a little tired of now.
Yeah, it's real simple. So just put it there, and then are you doing 3 draws? That's what you're doing, or?
I want to do more than 3 draws, so that it should be smaller draws.
Mm-hmm. So find out how many draws they're willing to do, because usually they won't. How much is your total budget?
For rehab budget is 70,000.
Okay, so like 4 draws probably. They probably won't do much more than 4 or 5. I would think that's probably the max. Okay. That's usually how they work. Maximum are, and they are going to charge you like $100 to $200 like for a draw fee when they come out to do the inspection and do a draw, so you will be paying that. Yeah, I like to be $10,000 to $20,000 each is good. If you get them where they're like $30K each, then you might get real out of pocket before you can get your money. So yeah, I agree, keep them as small as possible. And a lot of lenders will be like, I will only do 3 to 4 and that's it. They're not looking to do like 6 draws, 7 draws and all that. So just ask them what draws you can do, and get 4 to 5 draws. Do as many as you can, because I like being able to have the ability to do more draws, and that way I don't have to put as much of my money out of my pocket before I can recoup it. But you finish things. So know when your draw is like a big thing for anyone who's doing a rehab now and dealing with a hard money lender. It's really important that you use the line that they have for you, because the way they work is they're going to come out and look at that line item, and they're only going to give you and reimburse you for that money when it's complete. Like if line item's halfway done and you call them some money, you're going to get $0. That's the way it works. They're just not going to give you anything. They're only going to pay you for complete work. So it's you focus and keep your people focused, because the contractors want to start a lot of stuff. They want to start like 10 different things at once, get it all half done, and be like, oh, pay me a bunch of because I got all the stuff half done. I need to pay my guys. And problem is, well, that's a bad way to work, number one. Secondarily, it's really bad for your draws, because the draws do actually support you in that, because they only pay for things that are complete. By the way, that's really good, because that's how you want it to be. They're doing that because they're trying to keep you protected, but also trying to keep their money protected. So they don't want to pay a bunch of money out on stuff that they can't measure, right? And then a half-done job is really hard to measure. But if it's like, hey, I did the sheetrock, they can come out and look and see, yeah, sheetrock's done. Okay, cool. I'm going to release $8,000 for sheetrock, or, whatever you have in your line item. Same thing. I got the electric roughed in. They'll be like, all right, I'm going to give you 2/3 of the money since the electric's roughed in. That's a milestone they can get down with. Cabinets are installed. Great. But if you got half the cabinets installed, you're like the other on back order, you're getting $0. They're not going to be like, oh, you bought the material. Okay, let me give you like half. They don't work that way. unless you have a personal relationship and it's somebody you like, they, all different then, but standardly they won't work that way. The people that are real hard money lenders. So be very aware of that, number one, so that when you're paying people, you are looking and saying, I'm paying you for this, and could I collect that from my hard money lender? Because what you don't want is a big difference between what you pay and what you can collect. You want those to stay in balance with each other. It's really important. It's the fastest way to get like really whacked out financially is when, people are collecting for stuff they haven't done and you have no ability to get reimbursed from your hard money lender. Because that is our part where we have to invest into our deals. We have to invest in. So just know, get very specific about that. It's pretty important. That is big stuff. Okay. So just think through that. It's for a lot of people on here are doing flips or looking to do flips. So this is very relevant information for, collecting your draws. And it's a little bit of a dance, right? As what I've seen is that every company is a little bit different on how lenient they are, how tough they are, what their pet peeves are. I think Samira is dealing with, not Lima one, but she's dealing with a lending home. So I've only dealt with them once. And I forgot to get any draws. So I called them after the house was done and I found out my mom never got any draws. And like, we were going to settlement in 2 weeks. And I was like, so they came out and seen a property, it was under contract and just gave me the money. But then they were like, can you give me all these receipts? And I'm like, no, I'm not giving you all those receipts. And then they eventually were like, okay, we don't need those. And they did call me recently and tell me that they're not doing that anymore. And they stopped that because they had a lot of complaints and a lot of people wouldn't work with them because, first of all, I don't ever give receipts for multiple reasons. That's my proprietary information. And I'm not sharing my people who I work with any lender. And Lending Home is a nationwide lender, so obviously you don't have to worry about that much with them. But like pretend you were using Dominion, who is a local lender and also happens to be your competition. They flip houses. So would I want to give them a list of all my contractors? No, I'm not doing that, right? They've asked me for it before, and I was like, you're not serious, right? Oh, what do you mean? No, we would never do that. I'm like, yeah, you would actually. You have kind of a bad reputation for like doing some slimy stuff, not you particular, but your partner. So like, I'm totally not going to take that at risk. I've spent a lot of years building my team. I don't need anybody like, I'm not giving you a list of every member of my team because for what reason? And, it's ultimately, I think their concern is they just want to make sure you've actually paid your people. So most of the time, if you argue that point, they will not press it too hard because they know it's super inconvenient. It's bad for business. And right now, we're in a position where we are definitely in charge. Like they all have too much money. They are just like desperate to find decent people to lend to. So we're very lucky right now that there's a lot of money on the street. So people have to get more lenient, more creative, and they can't be as hard to work with because I totally will. I have people offering me right now, Lending Homes offer me 8-1, and I've not taken it because my other person at 10-2 is super easy to deal with. And I just don't have a lot of time to, I don't like getting in debates over a little bit here and there. I mean, again, so I don't know anything bad or good about Lending Home. Actually, Ray uses them a lot and thinks they're really awesome and says they do a great job for him. I unfortunately didn't get an opportunity to test them that well. They were very good about getting the deal done. I will say that, like, I got my loan settled very easily and they were very good about that. Their appraisals are good. No scariness there. I thought they did a great job on that. My one deal that I did with them, and Ray's done probably 10 or 12 deals and he says they've been great. He really likes them. But he's much like I am. Once he decides he's going to work with them, he just figures out what's good about them, what's bad about them. And if it's something that you don't like about them, two things: see if you can either fix it or if you can hack it, right? Like, okay, they don't like this, but I just need a system to make sure that I get all that stuff to them in the right amount of time. And, here's what they like. So I'll make sure I have these things done so that, I'm coming off very well when I do things. That's how we handle stuff with them. Just, pay attention and just evolve as they ask for things. Any questions from anyone specifically on anything really? So Glory, do the best you can and let me know what you need and we'll go from there. It sounds like you're working on it. I would, knowing your timeline and all that, I would keep pushing on them and make sure your money's going through and you're all good to go. Okay, just make sure you have an answer. My on everything I've seen with is they're asking for an appraisal. So yeah, good luck. I don't like companies that ask for appraisals because, did they tell you, did they already do a desktop appraisal?
I asked them if they could do a desktop appraisal. They said they have to go out there. They need to send somebody out there. So the person is going out there tomorrow. Tomorrow at 12 p.m.
Yeah. So, so just so everyone knows in the group, it's not what I teach, and I'll tell you why. And I always tell people never pay for an appraisal. Always find a local lender who's willing to do a desktop appraisal. And when I say don't pay for it, it doesn't mean I'm telling you not to pay for it overall. I don't care that you're paying for it. I just don't want your deal contingent upon it. So right now, you don't really have a lender until they do this appraisal. So know that you're the one taking the risk of paying for this appraisal, and it might come back really low because it's not uncommon, and then you lose $500. So know that you're taking that risk whenever they make you put that money up. Now, like Lending Home, what they did for me, and I don't know if they did this for Samira or not, they did a desktop appraisal and said, okay, I can lend this. And then they got an appraisal behind it, but I paid them for the appraisal. I don't even know what they did or didn't do, but I know they did the desktop appraisal. And the reason I like that was because they can tell me within like 24 to 48 hours what they're willing to lend. So I like knowing that they're like saying, hey, look, I look at the comps and like 240 looks fine. We can lend you X dollars. And then I look and see if that works. Problem with the appraisal is they want me to get $500, and then I got to wait for a week for the guy to come out. And then they wait 2-3 days for them to give the appraisal back. And then he comes back, and like Sabrina actually had one at PG, and the guy came back with a 220 ARV. And from Lending Home, not Lending Home, sorry, from Lima One was the company that did this. And so they did it very last minute. And she, it was like they waited and pushed her all the way to like 7 days before settlement, put her in a weird spot, and was like, oh, you'll need to bring 20 more K to settlement. And she didn't have it, so she told him to go hit the road. And she went and got another lender who didn't do it. And by the way, that we ended up selling that house for 265 or 260. It was like way higher than 220. And the comps were conclusive. She was only telling them 240, by the way, 245 maybe, and they were a lot of comps. So what I've found is when they do this, one of their little sneaky tactics is to get people to underappraise so they can get you to put more skin in the game. So they effectively can go out and market their hard money company like, we'll lend you 75%, and you're like, oh, wow, that's really good. Like, you don't have to put any money in. Well, then it really depends, though, on what are they going out, and are they being really conservative with their ARVs? Well, most appraisers do what they're instructed to do. So if they're working for a hard money company experience, they tend to be very conservative. They're working for a bank. The bank wants to put these loans out. The bank just has to have an appraisal in order to put the loan out. So usually will be like, they'll never outright tell you, but they'll be very conducive to you giving higher appraisals. But the hard money lenders are going to be very like, I don't know. I don't like the way you're appraising. So they tend to, like, the right companies are at least. So make sure if you're paying for that, my concern would be, pay for the appraisal. How do I know your guys do? Do you have issues with things they're appraising? Like, because that could be a problem, right? And so know that you are taking a $500 cost of that risk is. Personally, I would try to find a lender for everyone in the group. Make sure you're working with a lender that will look at the property and tell you without you having to take that risk. I have experience with Lending Ray. They seem to be fine on that, but they do desktops and they do desktop appraisals. But I'm not sure if they do it for you if it's your first deal. They might actually be requiring your first deal an actual appraisal. I think for people who have a longer track record, potentially, I'm not sure. They're changing stuff all the time to be competitive. So that's why I'm not up to date on doing. That if you're working with a company that's more nationwide, you have to deal with that risk. Okay. Let me see. One second, guys. All right, so that's kind of a lot on that, but it's something to consider. So let me know how it comes back, and be very diligent on it, paying attention to it, so that way you can if they're going to come back and say something crazy. But if they come back and say a low number, don't be surprised. It's not uncommon. That's the risk you take if you got to take a $500 risk or whatever it costs. Hey, Glory, turn on your thing if you can. See if I can get you on.
So I'm asking, if they come back and say no and come back low, what do I do?
You take it to another lender, because that's why you really don't want to put yourself in that spot, because if they do, it's going to put you a little bit behind the 8 ball time-wise. You're going to have to go start over with someone else, and you lose your money. So you can see why we don't want to be in that scenario any more than we need to. Like, we want to work with lenders that actually will tell us what they're willing to lend. Without us, we have to wait a week or, and then pay a bunch of money up front to figure out whether they'll lend to us or not. So I've talked to a lot of big lenders, and the first question I ask them when they're like, hey, could you refer me to your students? I'm like, great. Do you do desktop analysis or do you make them get appraisals? They're like, I make them get appraisals. And I was like, that's a non-starter. I never recommend that to my students because the issue is they pay you $500 for an appraisal. Your guy goes out and under appraises all the time. And then, you know, they're stuck with your appraisal and they're stuck with like losing their money. So anyhow, that's why I don't do that. And most people who have their stuff together can just look at stuff and say, this is good. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what Brooke Kane does for you, right, Nikki? He just looks at the property and tells you what he thinks. He don't make you pay a bunch of money.
Yeah, he doesn't go
whether he'll lend to you or not, right?
No, he doesn't go to the, like, I usually have an answer within the hour. Like,
yeah, and that's what you want, like 24 to 48 hours. An hour is great, obviously. Yeah, that's what you want. And, you know, because here's what Nikki could do. Like, say Brooke says, hey, I don't know about this one, and I don't like I think lower than you think, and I'll only lend you a certain amount of money that makes her bring too much money to the table, and that doesn't work. Well, then she can go to other lenders. She has plenty of time to go out and shop and for other deals. Makes sense. So that's the reason that we want someone to be able to tell us that quickly, because if they tell you, like, say you got 3 weeks to settle and they tell you even 7 to 10 days later, you end up finding out and you invested $500, well, you don't have a lot of time to go to a plan B or C. That's the way it works. So I think literally you could get, if you can find a couple lenders that'll give you quick answer and look at the deal, you could go talk to 2 or 3 afternoon and within a few days have a couple answers.
I don't have all these
So
lenders.
just something to consider. Samira, do you remember if they made you pay for an appraisal up front? Well, in the groups are the lenders. So yeah, if you just
I think so. I think so. That was it was kind of a crazy time because I was going through the back and forth with Shady Mike, and but I don't recall the process taking too long for them to send someone out. Like it was within a few days. It happened fast.
Yeah.
And even my draws with them happened fast too.
And, so my experience with them is they're very quick and their people are very reasonable. You said they've been good too?
Yeah.
Awesome.
With my draws and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard nothing bad about them so far, and Samira is the second person. You know, like I said, I've only done one deal, so I don't feel like I have a long enough history with them. But everything's pointing in the right direction with them. And my experience with them is they've been driving me crazy wanting to work with me and work with the students. And they very, very aggressive. They got a lot of money. They want to get out there, and they're very aggressive. So they're trying to be friendly and easy to work with. So I like them. That's Lending Home. So that's one person. And there's tons of local lenders. There's just, you know, Gloria, if you just asked a question in a group, like our regular group and maybe the 10X group, you're going to get like a ton of people. So the key to also, the reason I don't like paying money up front also is there's a bunch of scam artists running around. And it's kind of like, we have a hard time keeping up with them in the 10X group because they come in like every day, like hidden. And what they're doing is they're coming out and saying like, oh, Gloria, I can get you like, yeah, man, they'll look at the property and say, oh yeah, that property, I can get you everything you need. I'll be able to do 100% financing at 6% or 7%. You're like, oh my God, that sounds good. All we got to do is just do an application fee or an appraisal and like send me $300 to $500. And the next thing you know, it's like, you can't find them anymore. And they really never existed. And you're so happy that they're going to give you this great interest rate and lend you all the money. You think you just hit a gold mine, and you come to find out they're ripping people off. They're like very scammy. So that's why we don't pay money up front. And I think I could tell that to a lot of companies. I've told it to Lending Home. I was like, no, not paying money up front. They're like, oh, why not? And I'm like, well, because there's like nothing but scammers out there. And just because you're a big company, I know you're not going to run off my money, but you could be running the scam I've seen big companies run is that they underappraise everything. So they were like, well, let me see what we can do. And they came back and said, oh, we can do a desktop appraisal based on, you know, and then that way you'll know ahead of time before you sign up with us. Cause like, yeah, I don't want to spend time with you and go down a path and spend $500 on an appraisal if I don't know what you're going to do for me. So I need you to perform up front. And we're in a position now where we can do that with people. And then once you build relationships, a lot of this doesn't matter. Once you've done a few deals and you have a relationship, you know what you're dealing with. And, you know, cause you want to deal with a lender who is pretty open to, you know, being assertive and kind of aggressive on their lending criteria for you, right? They're lending more. Most of my lenders lend based on, they don't even really look at the numbers as much as they're like, okay, I lend based on trusting Mike, right? And so obviously that's what Brooke Kane's a little bit that way. He definitely, once he's worked with you a few times, he's going to get easier and easier to work with. He's definitely a relationship lender, and we want to have 1 or 2 of those. Or if we're going to have a nationwide lender, then you want someone like Samira's lender, who is just They're nationwide and they have rules, but they are very aggressive about getting new business because they got too much money and they can't get it all out properly. So when they find someone like Glory and Samir and the rest of you guys in the group, well, they're very, very eager to work with you. So yeah, I'll check into some. I know there was one. I think you're working with you're working with, who is it you're working with, Glory, again?
It's a capital capital partners lending.
Washington. Oh God, yeah, it was Jarrett you're working with.
Jerry, yes.
I think I seen something that said Jared.
Do you
Okay,
know about
yeah,
him,
got
Jerry?
it. All right. He used to work with Brooke Kane. He used to work for him. So I don't really know him that well, but yeah, I used to work for Brooke Kane, and he was like his lending guy. So I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure they're an okay company, but I don't really know. Again, they're never going to rip you off as much as they just might not agree with you. You need someone that's going to lean, like, they see you're saying it's 320 and they're like, yeah, I see plenty of comps. Here's 320. That's good. You need that type of person, not the type of people that are going to be looking to lowball you all the time. Because I have had people that are very lowball and they'll come up. I've had hard money people come back with like 20, 30K under. And then I'll be like, well, hey, I've sold like within a 3-block radius, I've sold 20 properties here. Let me send them to you. Basically telling me something's worth 200K and I've sold the lowest one out of 20 properties was 220. And they're just like, well, we understand where you're coming from. That makes a lot of sense, but this is how we do business. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I can't work with you then. I ended up just pulling the loan from them, paying cash one time or taking it to another lender because they were just playing some kind of crazy game. Like I have 20 houses I've done in a 3-block radius over like 3-year period and the market's going up and they're giving me a $200,000 valuation. So that's what they're going to do sometimes. So, find out who doesn't do that. And that's who you want to work with. So I don't know the company Jarrett's working with now, whether good, bad, or whatever.
Mike, I talked to them.
I've heard about him. So, yeah.
I talked to them. I felt like their structure was very similar to Dominion.
Oh, okay.
It was,
yeah.
I mean, in terms of what they offer and like the amount of money you need to bring to the table and stuff like that. I do know they have some longer term stuff that the interest is lower, but it's very similar to Dominion. So I would say it's kind of like not as easy as Brooke Kane, but definitely it's a lot harder. Because I jumped through a million hoops with Dominion and I felt like they were the same way. It was like a really long application and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Brooke Kane's application's too long and it's not as long as theirs.
I think Brooke's was like 2 pages. Like I filled it out in like an hour. Dominion's, I worked on Dominion stuff in that file for literally an entire day.
For me, that's too much. I agree. It
was ridiculous.
It is hard money lending. It's like, they try to treat it like, some of them try to get like, well, we want to treat it like a bank. And I think, it's a little too much. You can go to the bank and get 5% if you're going to do all that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I mean, finish up what you got, Glory, but be prepared. If you come back, the appraisal's not where you need to be and they're not willing to lend you the money you need, then be prepared to go to other lenders because that's going to be important. And when you do, talk with me and we'll get, we'll make sure you're going there. So I just want to give that lesson one more time. Obviously, it's super important. In my opinion, do you have to search around and find the right lender? Sure. But once you get a lender, it's not going to make you pay money up front. You're going to have less times when, you get all pumped up and think everything's good and then they let you down. And now you're a week from settlement. You don't have, you don't know what to do. So I don't ever want to spot. Okay. Especially for like your deal, Glory, you got a lot of money on the table, right? You've got a 10K deposit on the table. So, it's definitely not one you want to be playing games. So anyhow, yeah, let me know what the outcome is. Stay on them, call them every day. Like once they get that appraiser out there, say, look, I need a quick answer. I need to know where we are. I just want to make sure we're good to go. If you like everything, then fine. Because I know the interest rate you were paying was reasonable, but at the same time, you just want to make sure they're not going to come back and give you a low interest rate, but then try to like make you put a bunch of your money in more than you're already doing.
Right now they said they were going to lend 90.
Because that is a good plan.
They said they were going to give me
90% of purchase and 100% of the rehab.
Yeah, and I really like that, but I don't know how it's going to work.
Well, that's all true as long as it appraises for what, that's the main key, right? So we'll see. Maybe they're really awesome on that. Who knows? I worked with them. So we'll see. Hopefully Jarrett wouldn't have any that's bad about that, because, obviously it's hard for him to build relationships if they're doing that. So maybe they'll be all good. Who else has any specific questions about anything I can help with? And any deal finding questions, anything? Well, let's talk a little bit about two things, and then maybe I'll lead this then. I know for Glory, congratulations, first of all. I know you're getting the deal, so that's we've been so busy talking about how to get through everything, we kind of forgot to give you a high five for locking the deal up in PG County. So that's awesome, right? Because it's not easy to get deals in PG. I know you've been working really hard at it. By the way, this is your second deal in PG County. I'm actually almost done the deal she sold me. PG County, $500 on it, so that was not bad. Wholesale, crazy deal. She found it. She aggressively locked it up and took charge. And now I'm working. That should be a couple weeks actually. So I'll let her check it out when we're done. So that's 2 deals in PG County. It's pretty awesome. Not bad work, right? You consider, Gloria, if you think about it, right? You're getting almost 2 years where you were working and not doing anything. And now in like 5 or 6 months, you've gotten 2 deals, one to rehab for yourself and one for $8,500. That's good. That's good results any way you look at it, right? That's the way you want. And you're doing it on the MLS where it's free, where everyone says there's absolutely no deals. And you're doing it in PG County, which everyone tells me you can't get deals off the MLS in PG County. So I'm like, people are passionate about that fact and being true. And you prove that that's not the case. Sabrina proves that's not the case. If I wanted, I could prove it, but it's a little bit far for me to run out and see properties. Yeah, and I think there was 1 or 2 deals. If you would have, with a little more experience, you could even picked up 1 or 2 more, honestly. They were tricky situations that require a little more, experience in the game. And, you missed out by like this much just because of like you not having that years of experience. I might have gotten the same scenario, maybe worked it out because of just a few more experience points that I had. So, Tuesday, by the way, I mean, totally, if you got 3 or 4, as you get better and better at this, you'll get more and more. So it's pretty cool stuff. So congratulations on that. And Nikki's actually, guess we can celebrate Nikki. She has someone who's pretty much told her it's all good to go. And she had one that was $200K and is negotiating down to like 170, which is a good number. She is in Linthicum. She's actually not far from the house I just sold for 350. Hers would be like 350 also. Well, better neighborhood than mine. So, numbers work. So it looks like everything's going to go forward with that. And good job, because I never even seen that property. Because
it was like on there like a week.
I only got 50 to 199, and it was listed for 200. I know. I didn't see it because I realized I'm going from 50 to 199. And it was listed for 200. So
I told TJ that. I said she screwed herself by doing that. Because that doesn't, like, 200 on the nose does not flag investors. Like, I just don't think that it flags.
No, it doesn't, actually. You got to put a 1 in front of it. For sure. Put a 1 in front of it. Because you're right. And I've played Prices Right. I've even been on the Prices Right in the audience. And I'm supposed to know. You always go, like, 201. Like, what was I thinking? 201, I missed nothing. I get all the 200s, everything. So, not that I care, because, I mean, I have enough properties right now, and I'm glad she found it. But I do more care that if I don't find it and Nikki doesn't find it, then someone else finds it. Now, as long as somebody in the group finds it, I'm good. The reason I'm finding everything is because it'd be nice to be able to pass it off to you guys and say, hey, here's a really good deal, take it. So someone, I just want to make sure one of us is seeing these deals. I am like really big on all of us doing well together, but outside of this group, well, guess what? That's our competitor. So I'm hoping they never get a deal again. I mean, I'd like to see a bunch of people walking down the street homeless who, like, I used to flip houses, but that stupid Flip Factor Mastermind steals everything on the MLS. Like, you can't get a deal because they're all out in like an hour and they all got their numbers. Like, they're getting their prices done too cheap. And like those guys, I don't even know. I think they're drug dealers, or I don't even think they actually flip houses. They're embezzling some kind of illegal, like, money from like arms deals or something. I don't know what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. It's like, hey, we don't want to let anybody win anything. because that's the way it is. And as long as somebody in this group is getting it, I'm happy. I just don't. And the funny part of that story, jokingly and joking around about what we're talking about, well, there's so many deals, even with all of us looking, there's so many deals that we miss. So I'm just glad that we're picking up more of them. And that's why I have Tanya looking every day, and I'm really getting more serious about not letting so many slip through the crack. I don't want every deal in the world. I just want to get more than my fair share, especially now considering that my group, has, wants the deals. And whether you're here, you're, like Kim's in Washington, and some people are in Canada, different states and stuff. Same thing there, right? We just want to learn how to pick up more of our fair share of deals and start winning where other people aren't winning, because that's always good, because that's just the reality of it. And PG County is probably one of the most competitive counties in the country, being like 5 to 10 minutes from DC. DC is one of the definitely is top 5 in the country, and PG is so crazy because it's the next best thing to DC. It's, you can get a house for $350 instead of $1 million, 5 minutes away from the million. And people who work in DC live in PG County in Maryland because it's just 350,000 versus $1 million. Single family house versus a row home, all good stuff. So that market has been nothing but crazy and just unbelievable. But if you're quick and efficient, you can get some stuff. So good job on all that stuff, and everyone who's been picking up some deals. And Nick has a deal. If you guys didn't hear that, I know people came out, they seen Nick's deal in Parkville. He got that from the HUD. And he has one other he's still working on. He might get through. So how that works out. So, good stuff. Tell them when you're on a call, Glory. Stop being all loud, yelling. I think they have one. Glory's whole family has one level. It's yelling. That's what I've noticed. Scott, how's everything going? I see the picture, but I'm making sure you're actually there. Because it doesn't count if you just pop the picture and then you're not here. Like, he's like, I'm just trying to get credit to be like, I'm trying to get attendance, perfect attendance. I'm every call. I don't think he's eating dinner or something. I'm jealous. Les, are you there? How's everything going? Les's number. I don't know the other number. That might be Kim. Probably Kim. Let's see who else we got. We got Nikki, Samira. Anything I can help with? Samira, Steve, anyone? Nikki, you're talk tomorrow a lot about your deal. We're going to dig a little bit further on that and get more detailed about it. So we'll jump into some of that stuff and get really detailed.
I mean, the only thing that
Samira, how's everybody? Are you back on track? Good, Nikki. Sorry.
No, you're fine. But you do keep breaking up a little bit. I know you don't like to hear that because
I'm breaking up. Oh no! Tell me. I don't have good internet here, and I forgot to plug it up. So thanks. You should have told me. I forgot to plug it up. We gotta plug it up, apparently. Now, hopefully that's better. No, I'm on welfare internet now.
Welfare internet?
Well, I had that super NASA internet at my house, and if you don't hardwire it, it still has problems.
Oh.
It's a speed test. It's at 1,000 gigs. Like, that's crazy. Most people's internet's like 30 or 50, and I'm at 1,000. And you can do a speed test. It's crazy fast. But if you don't hardwire it, there's just breaks. Like the Zoom takes energy, it'll have like little breaks in it. So
yeah,
hopefully that's all good. Cool. Samira, how's everything? Are you pretty back on track now as far as like HVAC and everything?
No, not back on track. I still can't find anybody. I did call your guy, Nikki, and he is super booked, so he can't help. He's trying to think. He said there's another guy that's coming back from vacation, but I'm trying to work. I've got most of the stuff framed out, but we can't finish it because HVAC. We've got to go around that. My window guy just reached out to me, so I'm going to have the windows on the second floor installed tomorrow.
Okay.
And then going to start working on other things around it to keep it going. My plumbing is starting rough-in. We started the rough-ins for that.
Okay.
The electrician's coming tomorrow, so I'm still doing other things, but I can't
There's a lot you can do when you get held up on one thing. So kind of what you're doing right now is smart. And, you know, because there'll be times when we get held up with things. We just got busted in the house in Baltimore County. And like, you know, well, basically, and well, not really busted, this is going to come up. There's times where just people disappear or something gets held up and we just do other things, right? I mean, you could do the outside of the house. Like we had a scenario where we kept failing, not busted, we kept failing the inspection. And so we're like, no one can work. So we had people do the whole outside of the house. At one point, like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, the whole outside, you walked up to the house, it looked like the house was done because they did everything on the outside. At some point, they got to do that anyhow.
Right.
So I always look at like the things on the job that are flexible things, right? There's going to be some stuff that you can do early, middle, or late. Totally up to you. And I leave those flexible things for when the things that aren't flexible, like roughing in your HVAC and your plumbing and all that, well, they aren't flexible, right? So unfortunately, sometimes we get hit little roadblocks in that. And then I jump into the flexible things like a window. You could have those windows installed now, later, early, but it's great you're doing it now because you're still getting work done is the key. That's the secret, is that you're still getting work done and you're still moving forward.
Yeah.
So 1 second. Yep. So that's what you always want to do when you have the opportunity, is just keep doing anything to move it forward. Landscaping, painting the outside of the house, anything you can do, right? I mean, all that stuff is time that's going to be spent on fixing your house. So, you know, I know it feels a little bit like that's holding you up, but no, if you're just thinking of all the millions of things you can do, and it'll take a little pressure off of you, because yes, finding the right person takes a little bit of time. Have you put an ad on Craigslist by any chance, like an ad saying exactly what you need?
I had done it initially, but I haven't. I was thinking about doing that again. I met with like 5 people the last 4 days, so I'm checking to see where they are with proposals and if they even want the job. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, anyone you have to meet with like that probably is going to end up not being great, and they're just going to give you stupid high numbers all the time. You got to find someone who can have a conversation with you on the phone and say like, yeah, normally here's what we charge. We have a standardized pricing for like a regular house. It's going to be $6,500 to do a house. When they know that, it actually tells you they're used to working with investors, and you know they have standardized pricing for investors. When they're like, oh, I got to come give you an estimate, I got to see the house, that's code for I want to charge you a lot of money and I need to come out and figure out how I can justify it. And that, in my experience, so I'm not saying that some of them won't do that. What I used to do when I was less efficient is I used to get like a lawn chair, and I would get like, I'd spend the whole day at the house and I would just meet like person after person after person, sometimes 20 people a day. And it was pretty exhausting. I mean, it's actually a pretty hard, long day just dealing with all these people running around. So I got like a lawn chair because I got my feet start to hurt after like 8 hours of it. So, you know, it was my trick, getting the lawn chair, taking phone calls. What I got better these days is now I do more qualifying on the phone to make sure I'm dealing with an investor friendly person who really has a business. They work around working with investors. Investors, like, not like, hey, I worked with an investor and I charge 10K, because that's not really investor friendly. Like, so people can say they're investor friendly, but then we need some proof behind it. Like, hey, well, how much is it to do a 2.5 ton HVAC with ducts and, you know, unit, and how much is it for the unit? How much is it for the ducts? And if they can't answer those kind of questions, it means they haven't standardized their pricing, and they don't likely work with investors, because investors know, like, I mean, the market's going to pay somewhere between like a 2.5 ton unit with ducts. That's going to be like 5,500 to $7,000 for the investor market. And if they're charging anything more than that, then they're going to get some investor work, but they're not going to get a lot of work. The people that are charging 5,500 are going to be booked for solid, right, and growing a business. And the people, you know, 6,500 will be doing really well also, you know. So
that's a question. How do I account for what I have remaining price wise, considering that I don't have an outdoor unit? Well, what I have now is the furnace and ductwork to the 2nd floor. That's it.
Okay.
So for the rest, the 3rd floor hasn't been done, and the main level, things weren't kind of adjusted where it needed to be. So like, how, if it's typically 6, what would you think the remaining of that would be? Half of that, 3?
Ballpark, maybe. Yeah, something like that. Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, hopefully you can get it done that cheap. The outside unit is not that expensive. The interior unit is the more expensive part of the whole system. So
Gotcha.
Hopefully they can find an outside unit. I've maybe $500-600 for that, maybe $300. Probably don't have you probably don't have the line sets there, would be my guess, if you just dropped the unit off. So they're about $300. So you might be at like $1,000 in material right now, maybe another 1,000 in ducts, and Yeah, you might be $3,000 to $4,000 maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, that's ballpark of what I would think. Obviously, if people are telling you 5 or 6K, the best way to do it though, instead of saying how much will you charge for my job, is to figure it out on how much would you charge for my group. I work with a group. We do a lot of flips. We're looking for standardized pricing. The most common scenario we have is a Cape Cod that's 1,300 square feet, and it usually gets a 2.5-ton unit. There's usually 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and if you're running ductwork and putting a 2.5-ton unit in with AC and line set and all that, completely from soup to nuts, like what is your cost for that? And the reason that I know this isn't relevant to you, but what you're doing is you're creating a foundation, like a base, to know, like, well, if they're 5,500 or 6K on that, well, that makes me believe that they could be very reasonable about their pricing. But if they're like, oh, that'd be $9,000, well, guess what? They're going to be really crazy about finishing this work, right? I mean, we need someone who looks at this stuff differently, looks at it and says, oh yeah, I can knock that out in a day or 2 days, and I can do that for you for 3,500. Not someone that's like, like people tell me they need $4,500 to put a unit in. Is crazy. It costs $1,600 to $1,700 for the material, and it's 4 hours, 5 hours worth of work. So, like, think about that. If they charge you $4,500, they're making about roughly around like $2,700 for 4.5 hours, 5 hours worth of work. It's quite a bit of labor, wouldn't you think? For 2 people. I mean, the better price is like, say $1,700 material and like $1,000 in labor, like $2,700. And, for a half day, for 2 mechanics, that's like, they're basically making like $500 each. There's people that'll do that in a minute. That's good money, solid money. They can do 2 in a day. A lot of people maybe just have an easy day and make 500. And if they're working with a helper, which they are, they're paying $200 a day. It means they made $800. So that's they can make a living on that. But there's a lot of HVAC people that look at that job. Ray was paying $5,500 to do HVAC. I'm talking about just the unit, not the ducts. And he was paying $5,500. And then I showed him, he went online and found the materials, the exact same materials this guy was buying. He found them for $1,700 online, and he gets them delivered to him. And now he just puts an ad out on Craigslist saying, hey, I get all the materials and everything. I just need someone to install a unit. And he now is getting dudes to do it for $800 to $1,000 for the install. And he buys the material, and it's costing him roughly around $2,700, like half the price of what he was paying before. He just didn't know. He got a bunch of estimates, and everyone was coming in real high like that, so he thought that was the price. And I had to talk to him for like 30 minutes to convince him, because he's like, "There's no way it's half the price." I'm like, "Ray, I'm telling you, like, go online, like just look online, like HVAC units." And he's like, "No way! They were telling me it was $3,500 in material, so it really wasn't."
A question. So should part of the questioning make sure that they have a helper so that they can get through the job quickly?
Not as much the helper as much as they just have the ability to do it quickly. They have the ability, because it don't matter if they do it themselves and they work for a full day. It just matters that they aren't trying to get rich, that they're say that the more opportunity people have, the more they charge. So like you guys are working with me, and being in this group, you're paying $6,000 or whatever to be in this group. But if it was Tony Robbins running this group and you're talking to him personally, like if you want one-on-one coaching with him, it's $1 million, right? So like we don't need Tony Robbins to put our HVAC system in. We need like, I don't know, like a crackhead version of me. Like, someone who's willing to be affordable, but not crackhead, like run off of your money, but someone who is reasonably priced. I keep my coaching very reasonably priced because I'm not trying to get rich on it. And there's HVAC people like that aren't trying to get rich. When I used to run my flooring company, I was the same way. I would, come in and give you a price. It was fair. You didn't have to negotiate me. It was just enough for me to make a living and, be able to eat and make a reasonable living. And I would work very hard and efficient. I didn't have to overcharge you. And then if Empire Carpet came in behind me, they'd be 3 times as much. I'd be 3,000, they'd be 9,000. And like every single time. So I was always winning. But then eventually, why I never really made a great living is because I made a living. Now there's some people, once they get more abundant, they're like, oh, I can get 5,000 or 6,000. We got to work with the one-man show, the person that has their own truck. They're doing it themselves. They're not going to bring their crew in. They're going to be like, no, I'll come out and do this HVAC system for you. I work for investors. I specialize in working with investors. And, they're usually going to be more affordable that way. So this is the rule for anyone we work with when it comes to construction. We have to be able to tell that they're efficient in the way they do business. They're thoughtful. They have a head on their shoulders, but they're also not greedy. They're also reasonable in the way they live their life. Because like my HVAC guy right now, he charges $2,600 to put a unit in and $5,500 to put unit and ducts in for 2.5 tons. And last year, made $260,000 in income. He only works for investors. I mean, I would not even send him to a homeowner. And he also does plumbing too. And sometimes he has leaks, and he's not a perfect person. He's not always on time, but he's a good guy, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and we love him. We've been working together with him for a very long time. He's actually started flipping houses recently because surprisingly, he's got 300 or 400K in cash in the bank. Who would have known? Like my HVAC guy, I start looking at that and thinking I'm overpaying, but like we all know that price is very affordable. So I'm not foolish enough to think that I'm actually overpaying, and I would never try to negotiate him because I know his price is very fair and very reasonable. But he's the reason it's fair like that, by the way. He sets a unit with his helper. We call his helper Krusty. He's never taken a shower ever in his life. Nice guy. He has 3 teeth. He clearly is never taken a shower, and it's not a joke. Like the guy's clothes look like they're hard. And he's just like, he's never said a mean thing. He's polite. He's just a nice guy. He's just a scary looking guy. You would never send him like a house in Annapolis or something. But for our rehabs, he's perfect. He pays that guy $150 a day. That guy knows what he's doing. Guy has no license. He just picks him up, brings him with him. And Jesse just makes a lot of money. And him and that guy can set a unit in 4.5 to 5 hours. I've seen them put ducts in a house and set the unit and everything in 2.5 days, usually, like 3 tops. So they're in and out quickly. So 2 people, he's got $450. He's got about $1,700 in material, and he charged me $50. In 3 days, he makes like $3,000. So, in a week, he's probably making $5,000 a week. And that's how he's able to make $250,000 a year. There's the math. I mean, it's pretty simple, but you get other people come in and are like, well, I got to put all these ducks in. It's going to take me forever. I mean, it is sad when you see someone like Jason, these other guys who have the opportunity to make money and do great things, and they make it more complex than it needs to be. But it is a normal thing we run into. So, our job. So I would think you need to be in that ballpark, and I want you to just like think of the next level of what to do, and, find someone. There is someone out there. The problem is they're surrounded by a lot of retail people. So you are the first people who are going to be really responsive and call, hi, Samira. Hi, this is Dave from ABC HVAC, right? I mean, the people who are going to be really responsive and friendly are going to be expensive, right?
Samira, what do you have left? What do you need? Because I do have know 2 or 3 other people. I was just going to text them just to see if they're even in the ballpark.
Well, he didn't do anything to the 3rd floor, which is the top level. And then he didn't run any lines. He didn't drop off. I need the outside unit. He did, and the main level, we needed to move a few ducts down further, and that's basically it.
So he installed a furnace. He just left a furnace, and that was it. And
furnace and duct. He did duct work on the 2nd floor.
Okay, so partial duct work, interior furnace.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to find a matching unit for the furnace.
It's a Goodman, so like a 2-ton, 2.5 ton.
2.5. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and your budget was like, what was your budget for the whole job? 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're trying to find somebody to finish it up for like
3,500. Well, 3 to 4, I guess.
I mean, 2,500 to 3,500, just really whatever they'll do it for.
Okay. I know like 3 other guys, people that I've talked to that, I mean, I know them personally, so they own their own businesses. So they're all like, the one just broke off from a big company and he's on his own. So I think, he might be looking to form some relationships.
Actually, Samir, ask Rob too. Reach out to Rob on the group, like send him a private message and ask him if he knows anyone.
I did, and the person that he sent me was one of the guys that was about 10.
Yeah, 10. I talked to them too.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, don't do that then.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry for that.
I have 2 people I'm sending messages to for you, and then I'll if they seem like they're okay, I'll give you their information.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everything is abundant. So go on the groups, ask the groups, put the ad out. The ad's $5 a day. Your phone's going to ring. But think of the ad like this, Samira. The best, you're going to get a lot of calls. So what I like to do is I like to make, and Ray's been doing this in New Jersey, I like to qualify people in my ad. Mm-hmm. So the people who I don't want to talk to will see that ad and be like, man, I'm not messing with her. She seems cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the people are like,
I've been through that process. That's how I've got my electrician that way.
Cool.
So
So yes, do
I've already
that.
done that. So.
And just be like, if you're crazy expensive retail, don't bother calling me. I'm looking for people who specialize in working with investors. I mean, if someone does, then they're not going to be offended by that. But are the people who are retail, they're going to be like offended, which we want. We want to piss off the people that we don't want, and we want to pull in the people we do want. And sometimes you have to be polarizing to do that. You know, you have to be like, yeah, if you're like, for me, I'm like, if you want to be in this coaching program, I don't want lazy people in it, because there's work to be done. All right. This shit isn't easy. And, you know, we have work to do. And if they're like, yeah, I want to do the work, fine. You know, you want to hit the lottery, then go play the lottery. That's where you're a better chance. Because, you know, not working in this is easy. But I'm okay. I probably piss some people off who don't like to work or get rich quick. But at the same time, I tend to attract the people who are ready to do the work and very realistic about running a business and what it is to run a business. It's not easy. And but we get the rewards of it when, you know, at the end of the day, we get the rewards and we get to live the life other people aren't living once we put the work in. So yeah, think about it that way in any shift you can make. And $5 a day, usually your phone will kind of burn up after about $20 spent. You know, maybe 4 days. I found that I got a lot of people to talk to, and if you can do a good job, and also I would say, and this is true for MLS, by the way, it's thinking about like, I don't have a lot of time. I live in, you know, where you live at, not Rockville, right? You live in Rockville, so pretty far away. So it's not easy for me to go meet people, right? It's big, kind of inconvenient for me. I'm at the house a lot, but still, you don't ever you want to qualify them. You don't allow them to meet you at the house until they've convinced you that they're going to be in the ballpark price wise. Because two things happen. Like, first of all, it wears you down every time you meet someone and they tell you $8,000 and $6,010. That wears you down. Your energy level, right? You only have so much of it. So be thoughtful of it. So I'm almost like, if someone doesn't convince me that if I don't feel really good that they're going to give me a price that's close, I will not meet them. Now, even with that, when you get that crazy about it, there's going to be some people. I've had people like Tanya's friend said, oh my God, I told him like ducks and all that. I'm like 5,000. He's like, I can beat that. I can do that for 4,500 because I don't have any overhead. And I've been doing this 20 years. I'm really efficient. I don't pay that much for the materials. And I'm like, so he's like, I'll do it for 4,500 if you give me your business. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I was like, well, how about I'll send you to a house? I mean, he fully convinced me. I even said to him, like, no, you're sure 4,500? Now you mean ducks, everything you'll be able to do? Oh, 100%. What do you think the price was when he came to the house? Like $8,000. And I'm like, what happened to the 4,500 even after he convinced me? So like, even when you do this qualifying, you're still going to get some people that come in and act crazy. But when you don't do the qualifying, you're going to only see mostly the people who come in and act crazy. And it's going to be hard to get through them and get to the one person that will work. And so we have to be thoughtful of like anyone who won't qualify themselves on the phone, just say, hey, you know, it's okay, man. It doesn't sound like you work with investors. Most of the people I've worked with in my group, they pretty much have standardized pricing for doing like, you know, a normal house, a normal flip. They're usually going to be like in the ballpark of like, you know, 5,500 to 6,500. Does that sound like that works? And then if they don't know, I'll tell them like, here's where we are. Can you work for that price? Yes or no? And if they're not like, yeah, I can work for that price, I've done a bunch of those, and I'm just like, hey, I don't want to waste your time, man. I want to be thoughtful of your time. And I don't, you know, because that's what we kind of are wasting their time, honestly, but really more importantly, our own time. And wearing and stealing our little bit of energy we have. You know, we don't have but so much energy for this stuff. And you know, we have to be respectful of our own energy and time too. You know, so if you do that really well, then you will get a lot less of the people come out and act crazy. And that feels better. Like, at least we can have some real conversations with people that are close, and your chances of getting down to that really awesome person that might be a good part of your team for a long time, you know, they skyrocket up quite a bit. And so HVAC, plumbing, and electric do tend to be the trickiest to get, right? They are the most work. But once you get those people, they tend to be the more long lasting, because, you know, putting an HVAC unit in, like, you know, if say you get a GC or a contractor, like a Spanish crew, like when you give them a job, they work for you for 2 months. So if you lose them to someone else, they're gone for 2 months. But an HVAC guy, he comes in and does work for 3 days. He's always needs more work. So it's like finding a flooring guy, great flooring guy. They always need more work, right? They, you know, so they are easy to stay. You know, once you do have that person, it's easy to keep them in your world and working with you a long period of time. So yeah, we just got to put the work in. Anything I can do to help Samira, just let me know. If you get on the phone with some people, you know, and if anybody's interested in the group, if Samira has the leads, she'd like to call, maybe next call, you know, on Tuesday, I could call some people and just, you know, you can hear how I talk with them, how I qualify them, how, basically how I try to get to the point with them. And it might be helpful, right, to hear someone else do it and, see how I go about it. And you might hear some tips, some different ways. I don't know. And I've been doing it for a very long time, obviously, and I've started where everyone started, and I've had to work through figuring out what's the most efficient way of getting people to do what I need them to do. And by no means do I have 100% success. I'm just, I kind of very real about what work it takes to get to the right people. So my expectations, I don't get disappointed as easy because I realize it's a grind. I'm going to have to talk to some people, and I'm going to have some people say 4,500 and give me an $8,000 estimate. Even like someone who's like, I really want to get in with you, man, bug me for like 2 months and then gave me that estimate. And I don't even know what he said to me. He's like, I'll go out of business if I do it for 4,500. I was like, I know, but like, just to be fair, you told me 4,500 like 6 times. Then he went on to say, well, that was just for the unit. I was like, well, like BG&E charges that just for the unit. I don't even know. That's not even like, that's retail just for the unit. Anyhow, this is like crazy conversation. It was like Twilight Zone. So, I mean, those probably piss me off the most when I qualify like crazy and then they come in act nuts. But the good news is I don't have to talk to 20 people to get to one person. I can talk to maybe 5 and find someone. And that's probably more realistic amount of time. So, yeah, let me know what I can do to help. And, good luck. I know it's hard work, and just keep moving on and doing what you got to do and doing your best. So you were in there doing some work. You were doing some demo?
Yeah, I've demoed the kitchen tin ceiling by myself.
Okay.
I took up the laminate floor in the old kitchen. I've been taking down some drywall in the main bathroom and some drywall in the basement. And also there was the drywall. They were going to hang drywall in the ceiling, so I took out all of the things around the whole basement today, and wood and all kinds of stuff. So.
Oh, to hang drywall in the basement, you're saying?
Well, that's what the homeowners had put up. They were going to put a low ceiling, and I'm taking that off.
Oh, okay. So you're just going to spray the stuff. Yeah, okay. That's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
That'll save you some money.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on so far.
Okay. We're probably a little bit tired, huh?
Very tired. Yeah.
I know. It's like the gym, but you make a little more money than going to the gym.
Right, exactly.
It's like hard work. People don't realize. I don't know how I used to be out of shape as a contractor, because it's hard work. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's like hard work, but then you end up eating a bunch of McDonald's for lunch and offsetting all the work that you do. If I was eating lettuce and doing that work, I would have been pretty ripped. But I feel like I would just do that and then hate it so much that I'd have to go to McDonald's and get a bunch of double cheeseburgers to deal with my pain, and a McFlurry, by the way. And it's probably some nuggets too. All the good stuff. All right. Well, yeah, let me know if there's anything. You can text me, whatever you need, and, I'll help you through it as much as I can. Like I said, if anyone has interest in, me talking to some contractors in here, and just let me know. And Samira, if you have some people come Tuesday that you'd like to talk to, send me some numbers and we can do it on the call. And, like I said, if you want, it's totally up to you. Okay. If anyone else, if you don't and other people want to do that, let me know. All right. Mm-hmm. Who else can I help on the call before we go? Anything important that we need? I know a lot of people have deals now, and some people are still looking for deals. Kim and Steve and Les, and are newer to the group and kind of jumping in. So from a deal finding standpoint, is there any questions around that or anything we can do? Or is it just let's keep doing? How's everything working for the people looking for deals? Is there any concerns? Anything you feel like you're not? It's not working as well as you hope, because we can really dive into that if so.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Les.
Hey, yeah, I was just, as I'm going through the MLS and I'm looking at the different things that come up, what are the special considerations when I'm looking at short sale properties or HUD homes or things like that when you go into, talking to the agent and wanting to make a bid on that kind of thing?
Yeah, so short sales, the only special consideration with that is that you have no clue when it's going to actually, just know that a short sale needs to be approved. So you can often put it under contract and, you just don't know it's going to get accepted. But with that being said, if you can put it under contract for a number you're happy with, you're in the game, you got a chance. The bank just might come back and say no. And that's totally fine. So you could, you might put an offer in on 3 short sales and you might get one of them. That's the reality of it. You're not going to get every one of them. Just the way it goes with short sales. But with that being said, I still put offers in them. So a big consideration with it is if they asked you for, say, a couple $1,000 deposit, I would not put that down until they approve the short sale. So what I've commonly done is saying, hey, I'll give you $250 now, and then when you approve the short sale, I'll give you an additional $2,500 or something like that. Because I don't want, I remember I was just telling you, might have to offer on 3 of them. The last thing I'd want is a $2,500 deposit on 3 houses, and then I got all that money sitting out there for months and months and months without any kind of ability to get an answer. So if you're going to put a deposit on a short sale, make sure it's pretty low, or maybe even see if they'll just do no deposit until they give you an answer. So you want something to ratify it. So often I've been doing, I think the last couple I did was like $200 deposit, and then I would turn that into $2,000 or something. I'd give them an additional $1,800 when it was ratified, and they went for it, by the way, and they didn't get approved, so it was like no big deal. So that's kind of the thing for short sales. For HUDs, the consideration for HUD is this: HUD properties, and you're looking on the MLS, they generally have a wait period that investors can't buy them for 14 days. So you want to look and see if that's the case. That's called being in an exclusive period. So it means it's exclusively only for homeowners. So you have to be a homeowner, you have to occupy the property. And what HUD's trying to do is they have an initiative where they want more people to be homeowners. So what they do is they give homeowners 14 days to come in and bid, and they'll give them really good discounts too. Like you can get a pretty good deal if you're going to live in it. And then after 14 days, if a homeowner has not made an acceptable offer, they open it up to investors. And that's called, I believe, extended, not exclusive anymore, but you'll know, it'll say open to investors. So that's when you can bid on HUD. The technique I've been using for HUD is when something is exclusive to homeowner and I realize it's in way too bad a shape and there's very little chance a homeowner is going to buy it, then I tend to want to get all my numbers together like a couple days before it goes available to investors, because I'm taking an educated guess that it will actually go to investor and not to a homeowner, because it's just not in good enough shape for a homeowner. Homeowners don't tend to do fixer-uppers from HUD. They don't have the money to do that. So now the HUD properties that do go to homeowners quite often are ones that are in pretty good shape. So if the house is in bad shape, then you have a good chance it will go to investors. The advantage you can get as an investor is if you do that work, say 2 days, which would be 12 days in, which is 2 days from the 14 days, then you would have all your numbers together and legitimately you could put your offer in at 12:01 at night, right? 12:01 p.m. I think that's correct. 12:01 a.m. No, it's 12. Yeah, a.m. Yeah, I'm not an expert on that, but trust me on this. You can do 12:01, or I often don't stay up to 12:01, so I'll just do like 6 o'clock when I wake up, a.m. And I put the offer in, and within 24 hours, if say you're offering full price or better, you often will get an acceptance, because you've beaten a lot of people out. Now what other investors do is they wait until they want to make sure that a homeowner doesn't buy it, and they don't want to take the risk of going to see it 2 days before, because they're like, well, what if a homeowner buys it? So they wait to find out and wait and see if it comes available. So now they're looking at it. Now when you have the offer in at 6 o'clock, they're probably at best going out that day or the day after to see it. And then by the time they get their contractor through to get estimates and talk with their wife, pray on it, and do all these crazy things, they might get an offer in 3 days later. Well, if you've done what I've said, your offer's already been accepted and they're out of the game. You've already beat everyone. So like, this is one of my key things of how I get HUD properties is I make sure while everyone else is being a little bit lazy and they don't want to take the risk of seeing a property. Now, every once in a while, do I go out and look at a property and get all prepared, and then HUD's like, oh, we sold it to a homeowner. And I'm like, okay, that sucked. But that doesn't happen often enough for me to lose the advantage of having my offer in quickly. So that's been how I've been winning on HUD over the last like 2 to 3 years. That technique has been working very well, because it really feeds in nicely to the psychology of my competitors, who really they're kind of like, well, I'm busy. I want to make sure it doesn't sell to a homeowner. I'm like, fantastic, keep doing that. So like the deal we got with, the last 5 or 6 deals I've gotten, it's been exactly that. Like the one me and Tanya seen 3 days before, we had the offer in like early that morning, 6 o'clock. The next morning I woke up like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, checked my email, and it's like, HUD, it's up to your offer. And anytime I'm offering full price or better, that's the technique I want to use. Now, if HUD property is at 100 and I got to offer 70, Well, HUD just won't accept 30K less until they've got days on the market. So am I going to go see that 2 days before it goes to investors? No. I'm only using that go see it before it opens up to investors technique when I know I can offer at least full price or better, or something really close to full price. 5K under, stuff like that. Because they'll often accept like 5K under, list price. But they, and if you're over list price, then yeah, you definitely should get that offer in. And because that offer, like HUD is really good about accepting good offers. If you give them a strong offer over list, if they meet their needs, they won't shop. Like they won't say, well, you got your offer less. Let us think it over and see if we can get a better offer. It's like, no, let's just offer 5K over. He filled out everything right and they'll just give it to you. I like that because I have to tell you with the banks these days, we're seeing a lot of like you put in a really great offer, 10K over list, and they sit on it for a month. Like we got an offer in right now, I think it's 5 to 7K over list. We put it in 3.5 weeks ago. I asked Delonte about it today, and he's like, I don't even know, dude. So I mean, they're just sitting on it like for life or something. I'm thinking if hopefully they'll get back to me for the spring or something, because I wouldn't mind. Now I'm like, I hope they hold it for another 3 months because I want to buy it and then maybe sell it in the spring. But likely what's going to happen is I'm just going to say no if they come back because probably the timing will be weird. But yeah, I've seen that. Now, does that happen all the time? No. So I've had a few recently where I've gotten them through quickly. I've had some private sales where we got them through quickly. So that's HUD though. And with HUD, there is no advantage with HUD. I always preach, get the listing agent to write for you. Well, with HUD, there's no advantage to having the listing agent write for you. Okay.
Okay. Why is that?
Because it's an automated program that they have nothing to do with. They don't speak with anyone. They can't get you any kind of exclusive access. They don't influence it's a computerized program with an asset manager behind it that's playing like a video game essentially. And like they don't often, if never even spoken to the decision maker and never will, because that's how HUD rolls. Think about this. They're not just selling 150 properties in our state. It's every state across the country. And they got like one dude who's like this super nerd who, used to, rock Mario Brothers back in the day and like crush Space Invaders. And now he's just sitting there accepting, okay, that meets it. Yup. And he's countering and it's just nuts. So that's what's happening. And so they do think that person answers the phone for like the 700 agents they're working with now. Like they have zero communication. So what I've found is HUD agents tend to be like a mill. They don't answer their phone very much. They're not very responsive. They're not very good agents. So what they'll end up doing is they'll put the offer in for you, and they're not going to have any more advantage than say if I put the offer in. The only advantage I would offer you if you're like, Mike, I'd like you to put the offer in, is I can jump on the computer like right now and have the offer in for you in 5 minutes. Like done. And that's the key to HUD is you do it quickly, right? Because if you end up waiting 2, 3, 4 days to put the offer in, and if it is a good deal and the numbers are good on it, it will not be there 4 days later. That's been my experience. So speed is of the essence when it's with HUD properties. So the person you'd want to work with putting your HUD offers in is someone that you can get a hold of. If you call me, I'll do it for you quickly. If I don't answer, call someone else that'll do it for you quickly. Always have like 1 or 2 people that will like stop what they're doing and put the offer in for you when it's a good deal, when you're offering list or better. Okay. And that's obviously, as you being new, that's after you've taken, pushed it by me and it makes sense. And, and I feel really comfortable with the numbers. And the second thing I love about HUD is that they'll generate a counter offer. Anytime you put an offer in, and if say you are under a list, they'll counter offer you. They'll say, you know what, we need to net this. And they kind of show you their hand. And then you can go out and look at it and see if you can make that work. And you can say no. Also, I've had with HUD where they've countered me and I've said yes just for the fun of it because I thought it might be a possibility. And then I went out and seen it and I didn't like it and I just never sent them the deposit. And then HUD don't say a word because it's that super like Mario Brother game going on. Well, like if you don't send a deposit 3 days later, they just kick you out, no consequence. They won't be like, oh, don't mess with Les because Les is like, he didn't settle in the last 2. They don't know what's going on. Like one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing. So no one ever complains. Like if I put an offer in and I don't send a deposit, they just put it on the market 3 days later. They don't, no complaints. They never say, oh, Mike, you got to stop doing that. Like no one cares.
Okay.
So it gives me the ability to like lock it up and then come and say, hey, I got this locked up at 88K. What do you think, Mike? And I'd be like, all right, that's a good deal or a bad deal. Now, obviously, because if you think it's a really good deal and you think your numbers are sharp, then it's in your best interest to do it really quickly. Like I often would have my old acquisitions people, I'd have them lock stuff up before I ever even seen it. Sometimes they'd be right, sometimes they'd be wrong. Well, they'd lock it up and then before I'd send my money, I would then go see it. But I knew, you know, I knew that if I liked the property, all I had to do was make it real with a check. If I didn't like it, all I had to do was just not respond for 3 days, and they would just put it back on the market. No big deal. So you see what they were doing? They were locking the opportunity up. That's the key. You know, and that's what we want to do in this world. If we see something that's an opportunity, we want to lock it up if we can. We just don't want to lock it up with our money, right? We want to have our cake and eat it too. And having our cake and eating it too means I've locked the opportunity up, but I haven't actually put any of my money towards it. So that's why I love HUD. I'm very excited about HUD. It works well anywhere I've ever been. And there's, you know, sometimes there's some good stuff on HUD, sometimes there's not, but you should always be looking at it because HUD goes in little phases. You know, I had a time where it was like 3 years ago where we bought like 9 properties in 30 days from HUD at like the biggest discounts I've ever seen in my life. Like unbelievable discounts, like some of my biggest wholesale deals ever. I mean, they were just like fire
Were they
sale.
from the MLS when you found them?
Yeah, they were all on the MLS. Yep, they were on the MLS, and you know, but I have a system, so I went and looked at them. You think I went and seen all 7? I was like, no, I'll offer. I went in once I realized they were taking halves. I got one where I just made a super low offer on it, and they accepted it. And I was like, they just accepted $50K on a house I normally pay $75 for. So what did I do when I seen that happen like 2 times? I just started to have my people go in and make 50% offers on every property. So my guys, I had someone. I got 9 properties in a month, and then just miraculously, and then I heard like 4 other investors saying the same thing. Like, man, we're just putting in half price offers. They're accepting it. And that went on for like 2 or 3 months. And everyone was like, I'm quitting my job. This is all great. And then HUD shut it down. HUD was like, okay, we're good. I think they just had a bunch of properties to get rid of. And so, you know, when you're in the game, you get some lucky opportunities. And so sometimes HUD gets where they have a lot of pressure to move properties, and they do. They get more aggressive about selling things. Because you'll see some stuff sit on HUD for months when it's overpriced. But, you know, when HUD wants to move stuff, they want to move it. So I like being very consistent with HUD. You know, you'll get where you go where it's not great for a month or 2. But if you're consistently working HUD, putting offers in, you'll find that you'll get enough deals throughout the year to really make it a good source of your, you know, spending your time and energy. HUD's awesome. Their whole system is amazing, everything. Now, prop offers is another one you're going to run into. There's a couple automated offer systems. And those you have no real advantage to get the agent to do those for you either because they're automated. But why they suck compared to HUD is they will hold all offers for long periods of time, and they will just sit there and accumulate offers. And then once they feel like they've accumulated enough offers, then they'll make a decision. That scenario is not good for you, really. I mean, that's not going to be a very optimal scenario for you. So I often deprioritize anything that says propoffer.com or marylandoffer.com. I'm not saying I won't make the offer, but I will say this. In the last couple of years, my experience has been pretty low win rate in that scenario. So that's all I'm saying. Doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's probably not the best use of my time if I have to choose. If I was choosing like, oh, propoffer.com, and I look over here and I see a HUD, well, you know where my attention's going to go, right? Or even better than a HUD would be I see something priced really well and it says homeowner, like the deal I just got for everyone. I picked up one in Brooklyn Park, and Tanya was being trained her first day on searching the MLS, and we started at 12, and in 15 minutes we had it weeded down to a few properties. And then of like the 7 or 8 properties we had, I said, I want you to pick the very best one. And she picked this very best one because it was $50K. Property was $50,000 listed, and I'm like, when I looked at it, I'm like, it's definitely worth more. I think it might be worth 100 because I thought you could finish the basement. I went and got out there and couldn't finish the basement, so it ended up being worth like $76,000. I got on the phone. She got on the phone, not me, and she said, "Hey, you know, we're going to make an offer. I work with Mike Green. You know, we can settle quickly. Serious, strong offer. It's going to be over list." And he's like, "Well, I got a lot of offers. It's going to need to be over list." And then she asked, "Would you do us a favor and write for us?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I could write for you." And you know, here's kind of where you need to be. You know, and we went out, looked at it. We told him we'd be at 76.1. He's like, "That's a strong offer. I think I can push that through." And then we told him, "Well, look, I got another house I'd like to make an offer on. How quickly can you get me a response?" He's like, "I'll get you a response tonight." 6 o'clock. We seen it. We'd searched the MLS at 12. I got in my car by 1:30. I was at the house. By 2, I'd evaluated it. By 2:30, Tanya had sent over the offer and all the terms. And by 6 o'clock, he gave us a signed contract back. And it was a divorced couple. It was a private sale, so they could make a decision that quickly before anyone else. And because he was writing the offer for me, guess what he did? He took it off the market. When I told him what we were offering at 2:30, and he knew 76.1, and he was writing it, he took it off the market at 2:30. Like he legitimately, we went back to when I was recomping it and trying to put some stuff together to look at what we had just bought. I went back and looked for it, and it was gone. He'd taken it temporary off, so he wouldn't get any new offers to beat mine. How cool is that? You know, I mean, I'm assuming he did that because he didn't want another offer to come in, you know, and then lose his double commission. I mean, I'm just assuming, you know, because I get that way sometimes where I turn off the MLS because I don't want people calling me too much. I've already got offers I'm happy with. So that's the value of working with someone who is private, working with someone who underpriced the property. You know, my offer was strong. He could give me a fast response. So when I seen that, you seen the timeline that I have. I know you work and you can't go and do it as quite as fast as I could. But if you looked at your MLS in the morning before you go to work early and you seen something that was really good and you could go on your lunch break or you go on your way home from work, that would be really quick too, right? I mean, that would be really quick also. But in this particular scenario, you would have lost that deal. Now, to be fair, I was 2 days on the market, so I hadn't looked at the house MLS in 2 days. So if I was looking every day, I would not have been on that tight of a time schedule. You know, if I just got busy and didn't look at it for 2 days because Tanya was just coming on and we were working on some other stuff, some design stuff and everything. So anyhow, that's the secret and the speed. When a really good deal comes out, you just get out there and see it really quickly. And when you're looking at it and everything saying it looks great, I could offer list or better. That's your 5-star prospect on the MLS. You know, because or like, you know, I think like or Nikki's where she, you know, offered less, but it was a private seller, so she could get away with that too. Now, this again, just and I think she is getting the agent to write for her or not taking a commission, one of the two. I can't remember. So you know that works really well. Also, yeah, she is getting the agent to write for her. But to be fair, her husband did negotiate it, and he's a much better. So we'll just give TJ credit on that one.
Yeah, he did. He buttered her up.
He buttered her up. They have a technique they're using. Tell them your technique, Nikki, that you're using.
So my husband's going to call all the women agents, and I'm going to call all the men agents. And we're going to just, you know.
Oh, wow.
You know, I said, look, we can go out to dinner with them. So.
That's next level, man.
That's awesome. Okay, that's awesome.
So,
okay. Well, thank you, Michael, for that. Thank you.
Women, you put the Barry White voice on, like.
Right. There you go.
I was just calling to see if I could make this offer. Oh, man, you're like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? Hey, great. Yeah, you see the football game last night? Yeah, you know, it's like, you know, build some rapport, you know, just if you don't have a woman and a man to do it.
Right.
Hey, we do what we got to do, right? Let's sell ourselves to get a deal. It's totally worth it, by the way, because look, you get a deal done, it's 30, 40K in profit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like I've went out and done some crazy stuff to make $200-300. So I can't even imagine why we wouldn't just go to the end of the world to make 30.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense when you look at it like that. Okay.
I mean, really, I've worked probably some hardest days of my life to make 150 to 200, $300, and you know, totally worth 8 hours of work. And so, yeah, I mean, we want to put that in perspective when we're trying to get a deal. Go as far as you got to go. Friend them on Facebook, send them a message. You know, tell them how awesome they are. Anything you can do. Promise them that you'll hook them up with a group. You know, hey, I got a group of investors I work with. You know, we can bring you a lot of business. You know, anything that you think would give you an advantage and make them like you and want to work with you. And they tend to be very responsive to it because most realtors are sociable people, and they like people. And if they're on your team, they'll fight for you. That's just the way it is. They'll do. You know, Tanya did a great job. I mean, you know, she busted through, and it was her second time doing it, but she hadn't done it. It was 3-4 months ago she did it before, just practicing on the weekend with me. But she's like, this is so easy. Like, you get paid for this? And I was like, yeah, that was a good setup. That one made us look awesome. There's other times where we work really hard and nothing happens, but but the key was we looked through 236 listings, by the way. And we got down to those in like 15 minutes. And you know, it didn't take us long to get to the low-hanging fruit. Nikki, I feel like you did a really great job on doing that with yours, by the way, because
thank you.
You know, you only brung me one house to look at, and it was one that made sense. Period. And
I just texted you like 2 days ago and said I need to find a house ASAP.
Well, that's usually what people say before they find a house, just so everyone knows. When you start saying I need a house like right now, then you start finding them because we're less, and some of the newer people probably are, and is a little bit, you're going to be in a little bit of the space where I was when I was new, is like you logically want a house, but your heart's maybe saying, I'm not totally ready yet. I don't know if I got my money together, like who I hire, you know, maybe I should listen a little more, read another book or two. And I'm not telling you that's a bad place, by the way. So everyone has their own right time. It took me 6 years. I will encourage everyone not to take as long as it took me. Because I'll tell you, I just waited too long, and you are in this group, and I will help protect you and make sure that you've looked through everything properly so that you get a good result. So, but like what I've seen with students is sometimes it takes a couple months of listening and paying attention and kind of sitting in the background, watching people get deals. And eventually you will get in that place emotionally where you're ready to get a deal. Because like when you're ready to get a deal and you start putting the work in, you'll get a deal. It's that simple. Now, I know this sounds crazy and this is some like next level, like, well, what do you mean? Of course I want a deal. Logically, we all want a deal, but do we? Right? When we got a little fears in there, do we really want the deal? Like if our money ain't right, or we don't know who's going to do this or that, and we have a little bit of uncertainty going on, like that uncertainty will creep in and cause you to be slow. I've had students in the past, naming no names, but probably not my best students, and you know, work 3-4 months, get all their stuff together, and then a deal just be right in front of them, and I'd be like, all right, sign that thing up. That is great. And they're like, well, you know, I got busy with this, and I had a vacation coming up, and that happened. I'm like, so you just let the deal go? Like, I mean, so I learned with Gloria, actually, she helped me understand that I could actually just say, hey, you know what, Gloria, that's such a good deal. I'll buy it from you. I never even thought about doing that with the students, but it empowered Gloria to take action and know, like, I can try to get my stuff together. And if I don't, Mike will give me $8,500. With the other person, I never thought of that. So because he told me he was going forward. So I thought it was all good. But with Gloria, I was like, let's put a plan B together. And that's actually me being a better coach, because like she couldn't find the money. She always knew that I would buy the property. And she ended up making money instead of just giving the deal away and making nothing. Taught her to take action. Like, right. Because she had her cake and ate it too. Right. She had the ability to take and buy the property without worrying about losing her deposit and doing any of that. So I do offer that obviously for local people. I can do that. And for Kim and people who are in other states, then what you guys can do is find someone else locally that like is a big buyer. And if you pick up something for a good price, that might be like, yeah, I'll take it for that number. You know, someone, you know, that, you know, 4 or 5 people that you could call that likely would buy your house from you as an assignment. So you put it in an LLC named after the property or named after just some random thing. And then you sell the LLC off. So I also know, like, personally, I'll buy your properties if they make sense and I approve them. But also, I know that there's a bunch of people that'll buy them from me if not. You know, I think Samira had a deal where she asked me would I buy it because it came in at a weird time. And then I just sold to Robert. And Robert said, I'll take it, because it ended up being a weird time for me too. And so I'd sold to him and I didn't make any money. I just passed it on. But there's always someone, right? There's someone sitting there waiting for a good deal. There's an abundance of people. So once we get our head wrapped around that fact, then all we have to do is make sure what we're putting under contract actually makes sense. And that's what I'm here for. If it makes sense, then you don't have to fearfully put anything under contract, because you know, like, maybe you don't get all your stuff together for this deal, but maybe like Gloria, you got to wait till the next one to have your stuff together. Right. That's it. And it's just the way it is. So it's really nice to be able to go in and, you know, I call it free rolling, you know, where you go in, you don't really have any real risk because you know someone's going to buy it. It's always a little risk, but like, you know, your risk has been greatly reduced because I find that people aren't always like 100%. Like they say logically, I signed up for this to buy a house, but, you know, obviously like that doesn't make you immune to the common fears and doubts and uncertainties that we would have. Right. I mean, this is a big deal to buy your first house. So yeah, with that being said, I'm here to help, and anything I can do to help overcome some of that uncertainty and doubt. And, you know, by putting maybe a secondary plan B together, I'll help you guys. Okay. Because yeah, it's real stuff, man. Like our emotions are real stuff. Fear of failure. Who likes to fail? I think Gloria said, yeah, me. I like to fail.
No, I said not me.
I know. I see your head shaking. No, I was just joking with you. She's like, no, I don't like it. No one likes it. You know, honestly, in life, I had a long time where failure, like I ran my life around not wanting to fail. And it actually caused me to fail in like a really big way. But in a way no one else noticed, you know, being unsatisfied and knowing that I wasn't living up to my potential. And I realized that a lot of it was because I had a lack of willingness to take risk, like small risk, not like risk your whole life savings. I don't want you guys doing that, but you know, a little small risk. And that small risk might be that sometimes I'm going to put stuff under contract. I'm not going to find a buyer. I'm going to lose my $1,000. That's a smaller risk, but you already had someone tell you they'd buy it. So that becomes a very small risk. And then sometimes people won't even take action with the plan B in place. And that would be a time where you really, truly are allowing yourself not to live up to your full potential, because you've now gotten a lot of really good stuff in place. But then with that being said, there's people on the other side of the fence. They're willing to go in and be like, here's like all my life savings on a deposit, and I ain't even ran it by anyone. And that's too big of a risk, right? So we want to find a way to take, like, for people who are a little risk adverse, then let's take a little more risk, but let's make a calculated risk, like smart risk, okay? Not like not thought through. And then for people who are taking crazy risks, then okay, be more conservative, and let's find that nice balance. Because some of us are perfectionists, and it's actually a little bit of a psychological disorder being a perfectionist. It really does hurt our life and makes us not happy with so many things. And you know, we struggle celebrating, you know, all the good things we do. And we constantly are focused on how everything didn't go perfect. And this flipping business is a non-perfect business. It really is. But you know, your ability to manage and handle the imperfections and deal with them in a, you know, productive way, and, you know, bounce back and stay strong. Well, that's why we make the big money once you figure that out. And it took me some years to get better at it. These days, I feel like I've gotten to like that Yoda level where, you know, like Steve called me today or yesterday and told me that our house in Middle River, Essex, the inspector come in and shut us down 2 weeks ago. We went and got the permits the next day. He come down and shut us down a second time and said, we never called him and told him we got permits, so he's charging us $19,000 a fee. And I'm like, I don't know how that works, but the issue is I'm sure I'll get that taken in. I have to go to court in 2 weeks, but he made me stop working for 2 weeks, so I can't work for 2 weeks. Why? And I have to go to court and explain that, like, okay, he gave me a fine today. Within an hour, I had the electrical. By the next 24 hours, I had all the other permits. And the thing was, he said Steve didn't call him and tell him that. Now we got like the electric pass, the plumbing pass, the HVAC pass. We were closing up sheetrock when he came back. I mean, we had the county had come out. Everyone knew that we had permits, and this guy come out and just shut us down, being a complete, you know, really being a jerk. And so yeah, is that definitely something that in all my years of doing this, I've never seen that anyone do anything like that. I'm very confident that when I go to court, a judge is not going to be like trying to charge me $19K. But, you know, but right now I'm shut down for 2 weeks, even if I get out of the $19K, which I likely will. But I'm shut down for 2 weeks because of some jerk being like messed up, like trying to be the control freak. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody probably picked on him when he was young. Now he finally gets the opportunity to do that to someone else. Right. I guess. But so, yeah, is that like, you know what? I mean, Steve's all stressed out. I was like, dude, don't be stressed out. It'll work out, man. We'll do our best with it. Whatever it is. I'll go to court and I'll fight hard. Let's just prepare properly. And you know what? Let's send them to another house. And you know, Steve's learning to take that stuff in stride, because that is like some weird stuff that me and him could have got real pumped up about. He got a little pumped up. I got like a teeny bit pumped up, and then we moved on. Right? We can get pumped for a bit. The key is like get pumped, then move on, take action. Right? Get very, very based in fixing things, because like based in being angry and being like, oh man, that's not fair, and like, well, we can't do a lot about those things. You know, I will say that when you rehab, sometimes things are out of your control. With that being said, I can't even tell you a time anything like that's ever happened before. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years. It's the first time I've ever had anything like that happen. Usually they're very friendly. If you get busted and you go pull the permits, they're very friendly about it usually. This guy, I found out from Todd, my electrician. I think Samir knows him, but he told me that that same dude shut his church down, like literally came down and shut the church down for no reason, and like put a stop work order on the church when they were just like in there doing some stuff that did not need permits, and like tied them up for like months or something. And it's like the church was like, who does that, man? Like, you better hope that God wasn't watching that. I feel like that maybe he's already not planning going to heaven, so maybe, yeah, it's like kind of. That's some Grinch stuff, isn't it? Who does that? Like some green dude came like the Grinch, man, just like stole everybody's Christmas presents. So yeah, we get some weird stuff. Our ability to handle it is very directly related to our income. So if we learn to take that stuff and realize it's out of our control, what is in our control is our preparation, our planning, our systems, you know, our ability to take problems and fix them as quickly as possible and really start to put solutions together. That is in our control. So let's focus on what we can control. All right. Well, cool. If anyone doesn't have any questions, I got to go shortly. I have a call actually at 6 o'clock. So if anyone has any last minute stuff, you know, let me know.
Hey, Mike, I have a real quick question.
Sure, Gloria, I'll go to you next. And was it Kim that had a question? And Gloria, I'll go to you right next. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Quick question on the, did you say me or now?
Okay, Kim, you're good.
On the desktop Reno estimator, when you are taking a garage and converting that into a master suite and a bathroom, I didn't really see. I see where where you're adding costs to add a bathroom, but if you're including a garage to create more square footage and add a master suite with a bath, where does that fall into on the?
You could probably put it under like
desktop
major layout change, maybe. I mean, that probably is what I would use
Okay.
this time, because that's pretty much what you're doing.
Okay.
You're kind of like doing a major layout change and adding some stuff there. So you'd probably be fine to just throw that there.
Okay. All right, perfect. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gloria, go ahead.
I'm asking about this construction budget request sent by the lender that I'm using. It's a little different from the line item Reno that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Do I go with this, or I don't really know? Are they going to go with this, or they'll go with some other stuff that will give them?
You'd have to ask them if they'd be willing to let you use your line item budget that you're used to working with. Sometimes they did that for me a while at Dominion. They then told me I got to use theirs, and I stopped working with them because of it, because I was like, dude, I don't know. You guys are weird. I have a hard time like looking at your stuff. It's like, first of all, it's incomplete. You know, where you want me to put all the stuff that you don't have in there. So solely if they need you to use it, then just do your best and work it out. You're going to have to, just figure out a way to put it all into one or something.
So if not, I can do our line item budget and send to them?
You can ask them if they would be willing to do that.
Okay.
I don't know what you can or cannot do. I don't own the company, so they'll decide that. But you should certainly, why not ask? They can only say no.
Okay.
I mean, I think yours is probably more thorough than theirs would be, so I don't think they probably, they might just be like, this is our system, please follow it. And they might be open to letting you, put yours in. You'll have to see how, what they're willing to do.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
All right, everyone. I will see next Tuesday. We're going to do a different time, and because I have something going on at 12, I have a training that I'm doing. So we're going to do it at 4 next Tuesday. So we're going to do like a later time, and so I'll take care of making sure that's all good for you. And when Delante sends it out, just keep in mind we'll put something up to let everybody know it's going to be happening at 4 o'clock. Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Have a good weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you guys.